Path of Exile 2 Return of the Ancients is right around the corner, and with every new league, players are always looking for an effective, cheap league starter to get them going. So today, I'm breaking down my Ice Shot Witchunter leveling build. Just keep in mind, down in the description, there will be a full-fledged mobility guide fully breaking down the build from Act 1 all the way up to mapping, and it will be constantly updated as we get closer to the 0.5 launch. So first things first, in Act 1, there's a few things you need to keep in mind. Because this is an Ice Shot build, you're not going to actively be able to use Ice Shot until level 31, so you're going to need to level with one of two options. One, you can go with Lightning Arrow with Lightning Rod, which is going to get a slight nerf in this upcoming patch, or you can go with what I'm going to use, which is going to be a combination of Poison Burst, Escape Shot, and Freezing Salvo. Now this is a little bit heavier on the gems, but you will be able to snipe and use your cold synergies early on, but kind of go with what you feel is most appropriate for your playstyle. For the purpose of this guide, we're going to be using the Poison Burst route, so let's go over that. First things first, starting off with the gem links, you're going to get Poison Burst Arrow as well as Escape Shot in the very first region right outside of Clearfell. Keep in mind, you should not hyper invest into Poison Burst Arrows, upgrade it with the lowest priority, and if you want a little bit of extra damage, escalating poison could be of value, but generally speaking, this is lowest priority upgrade. The highest priority upgrade early on is going to be Escape Shot with Elemental Armaments and Short Fuse when you have the support gems for it. Upon getting level 6, you'll have access to pick up Snipe as well as Freezing Salvo. These two are going to be your primary way of taking down single target bosses, as well as help your Escape Shot finish off enemies, as Freezing Salvo will proc the crystals that Escape Shot drops, and if you support it with Frozen Spite, this is going to create more frozen crystals whenever you kill a frozen enemy, and the Salvo will continue to blow those crystals up, creating a massive AoE explosion that can easily deal with most mobs. Cold penetration will be another thing to add to this, but this once again is a lower priority. Now, depending on where you are in the game when you hit level 6, if you have the gems, if you're facing off against a boss, you're going to have to choose between Snipe or Freezing Salvo until you get both. Ideally, you want to go with Snipe because Escape Shot does have pretty good freezing on it, but ideally you want both. How you're going to support Snipe is with Hourglass if you have a hard time hitting Window of Opportunity, and otherwise you're going to use Concentrated Area for that 30% extra area damage. Now, upon hitting level 14, which is coming close to the end of the act, you're going to be picking up Ice Tipped Arrows and Barrage. Barrage is simply there to be utilized when you're about to use Snipe, as you'll essentially double the damage of Snipe. Ice Tipped Arrows is going to be great for just general clearing, and it helps you freeze things much easier. This can be used with Poison Burst Arrow, and it would help freeze quite a bit. If you have to choose between one or the other, you're going to go with Ice Tipped Arrows, as Barrage is still okay to kill Geonor with, even without Barrage. As for your equipment, the first bow you're going to be looking for is a short bow, which can be found in the Red Veil, right before you face off against the Rust King. I would try to transmute and augment bows just so you can get a little bit more. As for your quiver, you're just looking for anything that have plus levels or flat damage types. That's all that really matters. Upon reaching level 11, you can either go to vendors and or pick up bases off the ground. What you're ideally looking for is a Warden bow. These can drop around level 11, and these will be some of your best bases. I would not invest any type of Artificer orbs, Alchemy, Exalted, or Regal orbs into these if you can help it. And I will show my bow that I have on screen just to give you an idea of what I beat Geonor with in SSF, but that's what you're aiming for. A few tips to keep in mind though while you're going through it: always look for different flask upgrades. You can upgrade up to 10 and 16. Some people will hit 16, but 10 and 16 will be your cutoffs from the new flask. And for general armor tips and things that you want to get, ideally you want to get movement speed on your boots. You want to get any form of HP, armor, evasion, hybrid, or even energy shield. Generally cover your resistances. I will also say check the vendors every 2 levels so you can see if there's anything to upgrade your character. And then when it comes to crafting and currency, you want to make sure that you're salvaging anything that have slots and or quality on it, so you can get those materials, so whenever we get to Act 2, you can use that to upgrade your bow because we're going to need it. Now, if you see any form of rares, you're going to want to vendor it because you're going to utilize that for gambling in the later acts. Now, once we get to Act 2, there's only going to be 2 gem upgrades that you're going to get. The first is going to be Freezing Mark around level 22. This is around the time you hit Keth, where you face off against the Snake Ladies, where a gem there will be able to actively get that mark. What you're supporting that mark with is Prolonged Duration. Ideally, you want to hit your Ascendancy as soon as possible. With your first Ascendancy, you're going to get Pitiless Killer for the Culling Strike. You could argue Zealous Inquisition if you're having AoE problems, but Escape Shot should be more than enough to deal with AoE. but kind of pick what you want here. It's not too important. Now, there is one thing you need to keep in mind when you're going through Act 2 is you can actually get Ice Shot at the end of Act 2. Once you get to the final space where Jamin Ra is, that is actually a level 32 area. Most players reach this area at about 28. So in this moment, you may want to farm the area a little bit to not only pick up a level skill gem, so that is appropriate to getting Ice Shot, but also just to get Ice Shot, which will be level 31. I've never gotten here at level 31, so you may have to like restart a checkpoint to get to that point. But facing Jamin Ra without it is almost impossible because it's super hard to freeze him. So take the extra 5 minutes to just refresh the area, get some extra gear, maybe find some extra loot, and get Ice Shot because that's going to be super important. Now, what you want on Ice Shot is going to be rapid attacks as well as elemental armaments, and this should be more than enough to deal with Jamin Ra. If you somehow get a lesser Jeweler Orb in that time, you want to put that on your snipe, as this is going to be your primary damage dealer, which at that point you can add elemental armaments, concentrated effect, and or window of opportunity depending on what you put in Act 1. On screen, once again, I'm going to show you the bow that I used to finish off Jamin Ra. Nothing too crazy, and it took less than a minute to beat him besides his like Yap Fest, so it should be fairly easy. Now once you get to Act 3, for the most part, everything that we said before still applies. The only changes you're going to see is your Ice Shot will have rapid attacks, elemental armaments 2, and Ice Bite. Your snipe should have concentrated area, window of opportunity, and elemental armament. Freezing Mark should have prolonged duration, mark of siphoning, and internal mark. Your Herald of Ice should have magnified area, elemental armaments 2, and elemental focus. Your barrage should have cooldown recovery, and your ice tip arrow should have magnified area and elemental armaments 2, with freezing salvo having freeze and concentrated area, and spite if you should have it, though freezing salvo is a very low priority, as well as Herald of Ice. Those are the lower priority ones, with snipe still being the highest priority, followed by Ice Shot. Very similarly to our previous bow, you're going to be looking for a dual string bow or a cultist bow. These are very good, and they should be around level 33. Once again, you're going to kind of do the same thing, spin your currency to try to triple exalt slam to get whatever you need or essence. I'm going to once again put the bow that I used at the end of Act 3 to give you an idea of what you can aim for. And this was fairly easy to face off against Doriani, and it wasn't too hard of a kill. One very important thing to keep in mind once you hit Act 3 is early on, around level 30, you need to swap to your second weapon set, and this is around the time you face off against a monkey. You're going to be grabbing some of the marked stuff at the bottom of the tree. Of course, all this will be down in the mobilitics, but what you're putting in the weapon set too is marked agility, as well as marked for sickness. And these are just going to be things you use for your weapon swap too, just to give yourself extra marks. So this line all the way here will be your weapon set too. Should be fairly easy. You should have 10 weapon set points once you face off against a monkey at this point. In terms of auras you can use in Act 3, you can either go with Combat Frenzy or you can go with Attrition. Either of those work extremely well. Now, by the time you get to the end of Act 3 and the beginning of Act 4, this is generally where there's not too much of more of a change. Just upgrade on your supports. The only addition that we could consider having is getting Wind Dancer instead of Attrition, or getting Tornado Shot for extra buildup. I don't typically use Tornado Shot in my build, but I know this is a popular choice, so I will have it in the mobilitics. This will be supported by Prolonged Duration 2, Overabundance 2, and Rapid Attacks. And then your Wind Dancer will have knockback should you want to use that. For your final bow, you're going to be looking for a artillery bow, as they have really good flat damage. Just like previous iterations, what you're looking for is Flat Fizz, Flat Elemental, attack speed, +2 projectile levels, hybrid fizz accuracy, and even mana can go a long way. It helps you with mana sustain quite a bit when you're mobbing. So that's another great option. Now, when it comes to Jeweler Orbs, priority is going to be Snipe, Ice Shot, Freezing Mark, and Herald of Ice. Your quality order is going to be Ice Shot, Freezing Mark, Herald of Ice, and Snipe. When you're utilizing your boss rotation, what you're going to use is Ice Tip Arrow before the boss spawn. You're going to cast Freezing Mark on them. You're going to shoot them with your Ice Shot until they're frozen. When they freeze, you're going to utilize your Barrage and then snipe them and do a ton of damage. When you're generally clearing, it's going to depend on the terrain and the map that you're in. If it's tight corridors where you can't really see as well and you don't want to run, you can use Escape Shot. This will help you avoid heavy stun as you won't be running. If it's more open field, generally speaking, just use Ice Arrow, Freezing Mark, and then Ice Shot, and that will deal with most enemies. Alternatively, as I said a moment ago, you can use Tornado Shot on bosses to help you with extra clear or even extra boss damage, though I don't personally like to use it because that's a little bit too much on buttons for me. When it comes to the quest rewards in the campaign, track 2, you're going to get the increased charm gain. Track 3, the Venom reward, you want Stun Threshold. 4, you're going to get either all resistances or dex, depending on how much you want to invest in dex. For the prison, you're going to get life recovery on your flask, and for the interlude, you can get resistance, movement speed, or global defense. These can be changed at any time, but these are another great option for you. With that said, I think that's pretty much it for all the questions for this build. I tried to keep it short and sweet, to the point as much as possible. Should you have any comments, questions, or concerns, I will be live streaming on the 29th when the new league starts, so you can always come to the Twitch, or you can go refer back to the Mobalytics. I made sure to put a lot of effort into this Mobalytics. It's probably my most detailed one, so you should be able to get all the answers there. So go check that out down in the description. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the guide, make sure to drop me a like. That helps me out in a very big way, or subscribe for more Path of Exile 2 content. I'll see you in the next Path of Exile 2 video very soon.